Deval Patrick, Governor Patrick's joining us right now. Governor, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Jake. Good morning.
Good morning. So I want to start with Don Lemon's interview with LeBron James about LeBron James' new school for at-risk youth in Akron, Ohio. Take a listen to what LeBron James had to say about President Trump in that interview.
I believe our president is kind of trying to divide us. But I think...
Kind of?
Yeah, is. Not, I don't want to say kind of. He's dividing us.
What would you say to the president if he's sitting right here?
I would never sit across from him.
You would never? You didn't want to talk to him?
No. I sit across from Barack, though.
In response, Governor, President Trump, as you know, then attacked the intelligence of both Don Lemon and LeBron James in a tweet. Now, you're a former Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. There are a lot of observers out there who saw the president's tweet as yet another example of the president's racism. Do you agree?
Well, you know, it's hard to argue with that, but it's nothing new. And the tweets are all the same. You know, they're all about division, and they're often or usually about the president. I think obsessing about the president's tweets and his rants really don't help anything and don't help anyone. I think what we all want as Democrats and as Americans is leadership that brings us to each other rather than on each other, that encourages us to look ahead and to see our stake in each other. And that's why I want to take some time from my day job and concentrate on the midterms and to help candidates who are focused on voters and on their lives and on helping them help themselves in the way that we can in government.
A few weeks ago, you gave a speech to the NAACP where your message was to bring back, quote, restraint and decorum, kindness and compassion. There are a lot of people in the Democratic Party who think that this political moment calls for more aggressive tactics than that, especially if there is racism being displayed by the president, as you just acknowledged you think there is. It seems that President Trump has shown that anger and resentment can indeed win elections. What do you say to people in the grassroots in your party who are gearing up for a fight and who think that your approach is too soft?
Well, look, I think that there are lots and lots of reasons to be angry, and there are lots and lots of reasons to be afraid. And indeed, social and economic anxiety is widespread in this country, and there are good reasons for it. And it's combustible. Historically, that combustion can be used to fuel fear and division, or it can be used to fuel the future. And both of those approaches are American, if you think of it in historical terms. But only one of those approaches is patriotic. And I think that what we want in our candidates, and the candidates that I think are the most exciting, are the ones that are choosing the more patriotic path, the ones that are using that combustion to fuel the future. And there is a way to do that, and there are many, many candidates who are showing it. I went out to visit Colin Allred, a wonderful young candidate, first-time candidate in a congressional district in north of Dallas. He grew up in the district in modest background. He went to Baylor. He's a lawyer. He's working with his neighbors and his community. He's talking to everybody, people who agree with him and people who don't. His first question is not whether you're a Democrat. His first question is about who you are. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you're looking for in your representation. And the incumbent, instead of talking to the voters and to residents in the community, is talking to big donors and has been for many years in the Congress. That's the kind of candidate that I want to try to support and I want to try to encourage, and I think that's what will make a difference in the midterms in November.
I want to find out what you think about some of the issues that Democrats are debating right now on a national level. Let's start with health care. There is a movement, a big push in your party for Medicare for all. Do you support that idea?
I think it's a terrific idea as a sort of shorthand on the basic question on how we get universal care to everybody. And there's more than one way to skin that cat. I thought the idea of having a public option at the time that the ACA or Obamacare was debated was critical. And I think having Medicare for all alongside various of the private options that are available under the ACA is a terrific idea. That kind of competition, that kind of innovation is enormously important. And Medicare is a popular, highly efficient way to deliver health care that is affordable and effective to everybody. And that ought to be the aim. How do we get universal, affordable care to everyone? That is something that Democrats support, and I think we've seen, at least in this administration, and frankly, from Republicans over the last several years, that is something fundamentally they do not believe in. And we ought to call that question in the midterms and beyond. Another
major sticking point in your party has emerged in calls to abolish ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Take a listen to President Trump last night.
A vote for Troy's opponent is a vote for open borders, which equals massive crime. Like, they don't care about it. They don't care about the crime. The new platform of the Democrat Party is to abolish ICE and let's not worry about crime. Oh, really? Doesn't work that way.
Do you support the abolishment of ICE?
First of all, I think what the president says is a silly exaggeration, and I guess that happens in politics from time to time. I think we clearly need secure borders. There's not a single Democrat I know or have heard about who talks about open.
But there are Democrats calling. There are Democrats who are calling for the abolishing and replacement of ICE.
We clearly need some alternative to the policies in ICE, whether you call it ICE or call it something else. The sadistic policies and practices of ICE today have got to go. You know, separating families, the walking away from DACA, the deportation of spouses of immigrants who serve in the military today. Really, I mean, we are better than that, and you know, the opportunity to have comprehensive immigration reform has been on the table before. There is bipartisan support for it. It needs to come back. We need to be serious about it. And the only reason that it doesn't happen today is because I believe our president wants to keep it as an open wound so he can rally his base or the extreme of his base around it for political purposes.
Governor, you called for the abolishment of the policies that are dictating ICE. That's not the same thing as calling for the abolishment of ICE. Should I interpret that as to say you don't think we need to abolish ICE, we just need to change immigration policies?
Well, we need somebody to do the job of ICE. Now, whether we keep it as in the name of ICE or we give that assignment to some other agency with a different name is not as important to me. We need better policies. I think the name of the agency is less important than getting the policies right. And what we have today are the wrong policies and the wrong practices.
Let me ask you, 2 in 3 Democratic voters say Democrats, if they win the House, should begin the process of impeaching President Trump. That's according to a recent poll. Would you support that?
Yeah. If the grounds are there, then we should proceed. And I think there's a lot of basis to believe that the grounds are there. But I don't think that's the first order of business. I think the first order of business is acting as a real check on this president, doing the job that the Constitution requires and expects. That is not happening with the House today. And there's an awful lot of policy and legislative business that is going undone today because we cannot get bipartisan or nonpartisan behavior out of the House today because of the extreme behavior of a small number or a small minority, a small but vocal minority of the Republican Republican Party in the House, and that's got to change.
All right, Governor Patrick, stay with us. We have a lot more to talk about with you, including whether or not you are ready to take on President Trump and all the nicknames that might come with that in 2020. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Jake Tapper. We're back with the former governor of Massachusetts, Democrat Deval Patrick, who's being talked about as a possible 2020 presidential candidate. Governor, you now work at Bain Capital's Double Impact Division, which focuses on social and environmental progress. Democratic Senators Cory Booker and Kirsten Gillibrand reportedly met with workers' rights groups this week about targeting major private equity firms such as Bain Capital. These workers are looking for new legislation that would force these firms like Bain to fund severance payments to employees who are laid off as a result of private equity investment. Do you think that's a good idea?
It might be. I'd want to look at that legislation. You know, circumstances are different. Not every deal works. Not every company succeeds. That happens in markets, and that's not always because of private equity. I think I don't know Senator Gillibrand, but I do know Senator Booker, and I know he's smart enough to understand that. I'm having a terrific time in this fund that we launched. It's a fund that invests in companies in order to drive social and environmental impact, and it's part of this impact investing industry or trend. One of my partners describes it as describes impact investing as the laboratory where capitalists work to reform capitalism, and I think we're doing a lot of good. And we're trying to demonstrate that you don't have to trade return for impact, and I think we're off to a terrific start.
Now, I know when Mitt Romney was attacked for his association with Bain Capital in 2012, I know you didn't personally criticize Bain back then, but given the way that the Democratic Party went after Bain during that race, and the way that Hillary Clinton faced so much criticism from the left for her speeches to Goldman Sachs in 2016, did you have any reservations at all about joining Bain after leaving the governor's mansion?
No. First of all, we don't have a mansion, but thank you for that. I understand your reference.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah, I know. No. You know, I have, excuse me, many longtime friends at Bain Capital, people I know to be highly honorable folks. Mitt Romney hasn't been there for decades now. I describe myself as a capitalist. I'm not a market fundamentalist. I don't think markets solve every problem just the right way. But I do believe in opportunity. I think we need an economy that is expanding and is expanding out, so it reaches people on the margins, not just up. So it's good for people who already have wealth and just want more. And I think there is a right way and a wrong way to do that. And I think impact investing is an incredibly interesting and exciting way to participate in growth capitalism. So no, I don't buy all that. But look, I've never taken a job where I've left my conscience at the door, and I haven't started now. So
you know that the Democratic Socialists are ascendant in your party, and there are a lot of people on the left who will have a natural skepticism about you if you choose to run, just because of everything you just said to me about your belief in capitalism. Does that concern you at all, about the fact that there are going to be so many people who are skeptical of you on the left if you choose to run?
Well, first of all, Jake, thank you, but don't interview me for 2020 yet. I'm not ready to be a candidate for 2020, but I'm used to skepticism. You know, I've been in. I grew up on the south side of Chicago and have had an extraordinary experience living the American dream. And as a black man in lots of settings where I was not, quote, supposed to be, you got to know that I'm accustomed to skepticism. And I understand that a lot of people in a lot of settings have a bad habit of looking first at the cartoon of somebody. And I have trained myself to look past the cartoon and understand how I have to invite people to look past the first cartoon they see of me. And that's part of campaigning. Should I go there, is part of the experience I had in running for governor. I'd worked, as you know, I think you know, most of my life in the private sector before I ran for governor. I've only run for one thing. And I had some of that. I had to encounter some of that the first time around. As I said, I've never left my conscience at the door. I'm proud of my record in business and in government, and so I just leave it at that.
Well, you know that a lot of powerful members of Obama world, including his senior advisor Valerie Jarrett, have said that they want you to run for president. You have reportedly spoken with former President Obama about it. Does he want you to run?
Everybody's spoken to former President Obama. He's, you know, it's incredibly. I mean, this will sound maybe a little corny to you and some of your viewers, but as I said, for a kid who grew up as I did, it's mind-blowing to have people speak seriously to me and about me that way. And I wish my grandmother and my mother were alive. They would be the ones who would probably be the least believing of something like this. But right now, my focus is on the midterms, as I said, helping in a small number of races where I can, consistent with my day job, and on my fund, which is doing really well with the 14 colleagues I work with to advance this mission and to continue to invest in these wonderful lower middle market companies all around North America.
So you've already said that 2020 is on your radar. You're obviously not discounting it right now. I know you're not going to announce a decision today. When do you think you will make a decision about this? After the midterms?
In due course, really. The speculation isn't helpful. It's incredibly touching, and I've had messages and encouragement from all over the country and some from around the world, from friends and from total strangers, and it's extraordinary. But I'm trying to keep my focus, whereas, as I said, on my fund and on this small number of races where I've been invited to help and where I think I can be helpful. And I think it's really, really important for everybody to get off the sidelines and get involved in the midterms in the ways that individuals can, because we get the government we deserve in a democracy. And if we want better government, if we want better representation, if we want candidates who are focused on voters not just as a means to get or keep a job, but as a means to have government help them help themselves, then we have to get involved in representatives who are trying to do the job that way.
All right, Governor Deval Patrick, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.